difficulties makes me start about 3 minutes later than expected. I apologized for that. We all have to go through this, right? And it's maybe another tip that I will have for you at the end of this broadcast, what to do with all these technology issues. It's a personal choice. Now you guess maybe what I want to get to. Anyway, welcome to You Change the World. And this is Wednesday, 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Absolutely unusual time, as I usually do this live event at 5:30 p.m. I also try at 4 p.m. And to explain you very clearly what's going on is that we're trying different time zones for getting to our audience wherever they are. And it is Asia or it is Europe, and 10 a.m. is definitely more convenient for them than 5:30 p.m. But it's also for some of our audience in the UK and some in South America. We had recently an increase of that. So this was also a good time for South America. So let's try 10 a.m. and see how you guys like it. This is about coaching. This is about mediation. It's about, in fact, the days that we are going through every single day at the workplace or at home, and individually or collectively have different challenges. And we try to address the issues that really we are addressing every single day, especially through coaching, I would say. And it can be individual, it can be team, group coaching, but it is definitely happening. And we have 3 or 4 channels that we would like to push also a little bit further, just for informing you about what we're trying to do with communication and with streaming on social media, especially and podcast. And this is because we have about, I would say, 3 or 4 projects coming in the fall, second week of September, with different guests and different activities. And we want to be organized and we want to try to make sure that it reaches out live, real time, a maximum amount of people. Again, for our sake of housekeeping, I want to make sure you guys subscribe to YouTube. Our YouTube channel gets a little bit better in terms of subscriptions. So I think my request is received, and that's why I'm going to repeat it as many times as I can, so that you guys really subscribe. Please do. Today the subject is conflict resolution. So it's a little bit, between mediation and coaching, and certainly in the mind of many, many people, because really many people are conflict averse. They don't like to have difficulties with people's temper, with people's issues, or with difficulty communicating or reaching out and come to an agreement. So, of course, when you take a mediator, and I play that role from time to time, and being between 2 parties that agree to be at the mediation table, that's already an advantage. Even in the worst case scenario, where it's, for example, a divorce case, and I have a husband and wife or 2 partners in front of me willing to separate and discussing different terms of separation. Amazingly, as they come voluntarily, and it's a volunteer process, to the negotiation table, the mediator's job is a little bit easier, because my role is to make sure that through the conversation, we have an equitable amount of time for each one to speak. And we have also different attributes to make sure that they listen to each other. Because really, for years, in a couple, can be 20, can be 30. One party never wanted to really listen to the other's point of view. That's a source of conflict, isn't it? So the active listening is a number one aspect that we want to encourage as mediators, as coaches. And when you're a leader or when you manage a team and you have to resolve a conflict, or when it's just in the middle of a negotiation and can be a business negotiation. How many times did I have negotiations that became a little bit hot, I would say, in temper, in intensity? Negotiations where, there was maybe an agenda or something that really kind of emotionally triggered something. I remember one of them. And if some of you are listening out there and were with me You're going to remember it was somewhere in the West Coast a long time ago, but it's memorable, right? It was a big, huge company in the telecom industry, and we were negotiating a contract. And when I saw that in this contract something was contradictory in what the person was saying, they made simply a mistake. They asked something, they obtained that term in the negotiation. It was a lot of money, and then that's it. It was in the contract, black and white. The thing is, when we came to that term, the person made up a story. He really created a story to make us believe that we made the mistake, and that had to be changed. It was to their disadvantage, to some potential disadvantage. It's a contract, so the term of this contract was to protect normally both parties. But in this particular clause, there was something that could jeopardize them to some extent if they would make a mistake in the relationship, if they would not, in fact, deliver some kind of a service that was part of their deliveries. Anyway, not to get into more details than that, the person in front of me was had such a bad faith and was so loud in trying to shut us down and make that negotiation, stop, and that we have nothing to say, not one word more, that this is what they had in mind, this is what they meant, and this is what we need to change in the contract, that it cannot be acceptable. I was really so shocked by that. So I started to be also emotional. And I was the one of three people that we were representing our company, and there were two of them yelling over the voice of this guy. Well, it was, as I said, about 20 years ago or less, a little less than 20 years ago. But what a negotiation it was. It was a lot of money, a lot of money. And I heard years later that there was, in fact, a litigation with these people, and that the fact that we were so strong and so powerful defending our position, that it was agreed, and this is what they meant, and this is what they said, and this is what they wrote, and finally they had to admit it during the negotiation, and my voice had some kind of an impact in spite of making me pretty angry and exhausted by this exercise. This is just what I mean. This was a conflict. We could not really resolve it for one reason here, is that between the two parties, one was lying. One was lying, had bad faith, made a mistake, and of course did not want to recognize it. They didn't want to recognize the mistake. So, that's the summary of that. And this was in the middle of a business negotiation, a business deal. So, what I want to mean is that conflict is not always about two people or two groups of people or something inside a group that doesn't work, in harmony, and people are not just agreeing, but conflict can be also in the middle of a negotiation. All of that requires, undoubtedly, a lot of resources and intelligence. So what I want to bring up here, especially, is what do we really do and go by when it comes to conflict resolution? I think of, about a dozen areas, and it's really about a dozen because I really thought about this before talking to you. Then I wanted to list them and tell you what it's about, and you will probably see how it maybe resonates with you. One is, and I just said it, the active listening. Active listening means I care. You can trust I listen to you, and I will make everything I can in what I say, in my posture, in my body language, that I'm really listening to you, that I understand what you're saying. I will use my head. I will use my mouth. I will use everything I can use to make sure that I listen to you, and I really do. I even take notes if necessary. The second thing is, when you're the one to resolve the conflict between two entities, two parties, you need to be neutral. You need to show objectivity. Without that, there's no way for you to be a conflict resolution agent. You will never be able to resolve anything if you don't get that trust from both parties. It doesn't mean that once it's stated that way in the beginning of any kind of mediation or conflict conversation or a meeting, that they're going to trust you all the way. You're going to have to reactivate that a couple of times, because maybe in the course of the conversation, you might say something that might sound biased, and you're going to have to explain yourself. So the objectivity and neutrality, to be unbiased as a mediator or as the leader, the manager who wants to resolve the conflict between two entities or yourself with someone, that requires a lot of neutrality and objectivity. The third one is, do not allow misunderstandings. Do not allow, the strategy that some people use when they are in bad faith again, to keep things vague, unclear, right? You need to really fight that and make sure that we always agree. There is an exaggeration about this that I want to encourage people to use. The exaggeration means you don't let go of any further conversation until there is a complete agreement as you move forward in the conversation that people are in agreement, about what is said, that they are understanding what you mean, right? In a conflict situation, especially. In any communication, I always encourage people to make sure that they have an acknowledgement from the other person that they are understood. But it's not always possible. And for 2 different or 3 different reasons. Time is one, for sure. People have no patience to take that time to acknowledge, to make sure that it's well received. But look, when you write something and someone doesn't understand, you get a reply asking you a question. So this is really important that you fight for clarity. That's in fact one of the key, I would say, one of the main key for you to succeed in resolving a conflict is to be the advocate of clarity. Yeah. This way you avoid misunderstanding, interpretations, and when someone has a bad faith again or is biased, it will be revealing, or the person start to show the discouragement, or will just leave the room and then resolve this way. It will remain maybe unresolved, in fact, but but at least it will show something about the person, that there is no possibility with that person to go and get anything done. So you do that. Then you encourage open communication, which is not exactly the same. Open communication means be open-minded, be transparent, say what you think, take the style, be, of course, respectful, polite, but say what you think. Say what you have in mind in order to resolve the issue. I will tell you that there is a fifth one that is, I call it to be intentional in terms of getting this resolved. And it can be all the parties involved. It can be many people in a room that are in conflict with another group of people in the room. It's so many different kinds of conflicts, I mean, here. And you see it every day. If this would be so simple, there wouldn't be war, there wouldn't be frictions, there wouldn't be disputes and people separating. Unfortunately, this will go forever. So I will tell you that when I say you are conflict averse, that means you don't like it. Who likes really conflict? I heard one person saying that recently to me, a client of mine. I like conflict. I said, oh, what do you mean? What do you mean you like conflict? Well, the guy meant that he's paid and his position is to completely refresh an organization from bad habits, from people who were doing the wrong things, from different things that he came to clean up. So when you're the one who is the cleaner of a situation that has been dirty, disorganized, chaotic, maybe then you can say, I'm expecting this to be conflictual. I'm ready to confront people and to justify it and to make sure that at the end, other person leaves, other person stays, but there is clarity about the agreement. So he likes conflict, he said to me. I think he meant he wants to use conflict, if necessary, in order to clean up a situation that was chaotic and undesirable. So that's what I want to clarify here. Lastly, I want to also say that you have to find common ground, your with the other party. So you need to be willing to come to an agreement. And if it's you in conflict or you arranging, resolving the conflict for others, make very sure that you line up common grounds between people that are disagreeing. I do this on a whiteboard. I put two columns and I put the two parties on one column, on each column, and I really take notes of the things that seems to be their really true position. And I list it. And when this is all done, I will go back to that list and I will connect the dots and say, here, you say that in common. You can potentially get to a common ground here on this particular topic. So again, it's visual, it's real time, and people can really see but with their own eyes what the other one said, and that really they were very close. That's good to make people realize that. Then, if you will, there is after that a couple of more aspects of resolving conflict. One is collaborative problem solving. In other words, we are collaborating to resolve a problem that is common to us, that has been asked to both of us or to all of us to resolve, but we were disagreeing on the way to do that. So that's very important here, I think, for everybody to really increase the chance of reaching an agreement when you collaborate. That means you use your experience, you use storytelling, you use examples, and you don't try to pitch or convince the other. You try to really come to resolve a problem. So that comes in situations like researchers, scientists, or engineers, excuse me, consultants, auditors, financial experts. All of these people usually have problems to solve, and they need to be on the same line in order to collaborate and reach that resolution. Then I will tell you to focus on solutions and not on blame. That's the thing you have to get rid of very, very quickly in the process. When you hear any blame or any person playing the victim, that this is something that is on that person, that the person feels completely targeted, etc., etc., you need to, of course, now again, are you the one in the conflict? Are you the one resolving the conflict? But whoever you are, and the leader should be always here on top of something like this to be able to make sure that there is no tonality of blame and no tonality of saying, I'm the victim of that situation. Usually people get to this victim status when they feel stuck. So try to help them to get unstuck, or try to help them at least recognize that this is not the right way for them to feel happy or to feel complete. Then I think you need to set clear expectations. Maybe that's where we have to start, setting clear expectations. You know that they are usually very unclear. Do you know that there is another source in the business world and in corporate, in the organizations, where teams have difficulties and conflicts because the roles are not clear? It's important to make sure, and some people that I coach and that maybe are listening now know what I mean, because I always say that to everybody. It's key that you have clarity of roles. When people are clear about their roles, especially in collaborative tasks, when they are designing something together, when they are negotiating something together, when they are preparing a presentation together, they need to know each one's role in the team. And this is not, especially in high tech, by the way, emphasized enough. Please fight for that too. Clarity of role. Ask before you start the meeting for the first 2 or 3 minutes. Take 1 or 2 people as the leader of this meeting or the organizer of this meeting and ask them to talk to everybody about their role, to express it, to verbalize it. That's very, very powerful, and will again prevent from people to misunderstand you, or for having a blame to make on you, or to be conflictual. And finally, I would also encourage you to lead by example. That means demonstrate that that conflict resolution skills can be, done with your own actions and interactions. That you can set a positive tone for how conflicts should be handled within the team. And when you do that, it's showing an example of how they can also use the right tonality, the right wavelength to come to the right conclusion. And then, if necessary, provide training. I would say that would be my last one. So I recap here. Active listening, stay neutral and objective, clarify misunderstandings, be clear, encourage open communication, find common grounds, take notes, and show your notes, and connect the dots in front of the parties that are in conflict. That will be very helpful, because they will see with their own eyes and intelligence that, yeah, I didn't realize that we had this common ground. And this is going to also be a source of resolution. Excuse me. After that, encourage collaborative problem solving, because when we commonly have to share this mission of resolving a problem, it's a very, very good thing. We have this in common. We share the same challenge. So now we can collaborate. Focus on the solutions, not the blame, and identify who is playing the victims to help them get out of this paradigm. It never gets anybody anywhere. Set clear expectations. That's from the very beginning. When they are clear, you get usually what you want because you agreed, and that prevents you from having any conflict with the person that would not follow you, not align. And there is so many different situations, like encouraging that, such as a post merger, a big layoff situation, when there is a crisis, when people feel threatened, when there is a lot of chaos or uncertainty. That's a good field, a good ground, a good space for negativity and for conflicts. Finally, lead by example, and if necessary, provide training. All in all, when you're the person, the leader, the mediator, in charge of helping people to get to an agreement, believe it or not, what you can do to simplify everything is to bring positivity. You look at things like opportunities. When there is a problem, when someone brings up an issue that is a source of conflict, you can always turn this to be an opportunity for growth, opportunity for knowing something that people didn't know, opportunity for discovery. It's an opportunity. When you turn a negativity to a positivity through this word, opportunity, that's the translation into the right language. Because when there's an opportunity, people are interested to work together. So I think this is really what I wanted to share with you. There's multiple stories that could sound like miracles sometimes. When two people come into a room willing to really separate and be totally in a permanent disagreement, that there is two parallel lines that will never cross, and it will be never possible to collaborate or to work with each other or to share a life with each other. All these things are usually coming from a lot of interpretations and a lot of missed opportunities, because people did not communicate, they stayed stubborn, kept bad habits, and were not open-minded. So I think that this sounds very obvious, but as usual, we come here to talk about things that are very usual. We talk about things that are daily, that are all the time happening, and can be very singular, and in the same time complex because people make it complex. In other words, we have this tendency of getting things complicated. Do you recognize that? I don't know if you do, but this is what I want to say anyway today. And I invite everybody to come back here next week. I try to maintain this weekly event weekly. It's the summer. We have many people away. And if I'm not available, I will always do a recording, but I will try to keep the cadence to the weekly show. Again, the time can change. Today it's 10 o'clock. Next week will be maybe another time. And again, I apologize for those who have been used to the 5:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, but we have to try. So thank you again. My apologies for my voice. I have allergy, and I will look forward to seeing you next week. Thank you for being here. Bye.